Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, it's our last real news roundup of 2024, and we are coming in hot. We've got budgets and the U.S. Steel deal and Altoona in the national news, ways to help your neighbors and a few feathered friends this holiday break, and a new opportunity to snag a pizza on your way out of town. Plus, it is the final day of our membership campaign, so if you haven't already, we need you to become a CityCast Pittsburgh member today. It's December 13th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast's executive producer, Mallory Falk. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we dive into the big news this week, I have to tell you something really important. It is the final day of our year-end membership campaign, which means that it is also the last chance to snag our CityCast Pittsburgh tote bag. You can find all the details at membership.citycast.fm and support our work. Get yourself a fancy tote.
Yes, we have been talking about this tote bag all week. It is not just any tote. It's black, which means it's very sleek and won't show stains. It's got a zipper, so you don't need to worry about like your wallet or other important possessions falling out, which has happened to me with tote bags in the past. But it's also just the perfect way to show off your love for local news, for the city of Pittsburgh. Definitely become a member for this fashionable perk, but also because your membership is what makes CityCast Pittsburgh possible.
Yeah, local journalism like what we try to do here at CityCast Pittsburgh does not happen without support from listeners like you. Like I literally made 4 reporting calls before we got on mic today at 11 a.m. Mm-hmm. Your membership makes that possible, and we need it to keep doing the work here that we do.
And right now, we only need 10 new members to join to reach our year-end goal. So you could be one of those 10.
Yes, it's such a teeny tiny fraction of the people who listen to us every day. We really hope you'll consider the support.
One of the things we've really been talking about this week as part of our membership drive is the fact that, the national news cycle, it can feel pretty draining right now, and it can be tempting to just check out of the news altogether.
Please don't do that.
Yes, our goal here at CityCast Pittsburgh is to connect you to what's happening locally, which I think can feel a lot more approachable, like what's happening in your city, in your neighborhood, even on your block. And we're trying to do this in ways that nobody else can. I know when I'm feeling overwhelmed by these big national and global issues that can feel intractable, I like to focus on what's happening locally, like understand what our local government is doing or considering doing, hear from people who are trying to make the city better, and figure out how to get involved. And that's what we try to highlight here on CityCast Pittsburgh. So today, for example, you're going to hear us talk about plans to create more affordable housing in the city.
Which, a bit of a spoiler here, is actually pretty successful. Like, news does not need to be upsetting all the time. Right. There's a lot of happiness here, too. We are so grateful to everyone who has already become a member during our end of year campaign. And we just wanted to share a few of the notes that we've gotten from listeners telling us why they've joined. We really appreciate these. We get very excited in our internal Slack channels. Mitch said, quote, "I have been listening to CityCast almost every morning this whole last year. It's led me to new restaurants, informed me about important political agendas, and made me feel more connected to my community." Thank you, Mitch.
I love that. Heather said, "Sometimes people are surprised by how well informed I seem about very niche things, like the cull of the deer population, the replacement of the Commercial Street Bridge, or the drama," Heather put this in all caps, "the drama of what would happen with the old Irish Center. I just cite my source, CityCast Pittsburgh. The pod is a fabulous informant for my nebbiness." Heather, thank you for those kind words. One of our goals with this show is to give you lots of fodder for dinner party conversations, so I'm glad we're doing that.
Yeah, niche information in a party setting is really my calling in life. So by investing in CityCast Pittsburgh, you really are helping us continue to share these local stories and perspectives that help you live your life here in Pittsburgh. So if you've been thinking about becoming a member, today really is the day, because there is a prize, and it is your very last chance to get our exclusive CityCast Pittsburgh tote bag. Truly, that offer ends after today.
So for as little as $8 a month or $80 a year, you will be supporting local journalism. And then as a bonus, you'll get that great tote bag. Don't wait. Head to membership.citycast.fm right now to become a member. All right, let's get on to the news. Megan, what have you been paying attention to this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big story that everyone's been talking about this week is police arresting a suspect in the shooting of the UnitedHealthcare CEO. Surprise, surprise, it somehow ends up involving Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me a week ago what location was going to rise to national prominence right now, I would not have guessed a McDonald's in Altoona, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, in case you have somehow missed all this, police arrested a 26-year-old named Luigi Mangione at an Altoona McDonald's on Monday. An employee called local authorities after recognizing him from the photos that police had shared online and on TV. So Mangione is accused of killing Brian Thompson. He was the CEO of the health insurance company UnitedHealthcare, which also has the highest denial rate of any insurance company in the nation right now.
That's right.
Thompson was shot and killed in Manhattan on his way to an investors meeting. The whole case has sparked a whole lot of conversation about the dismal state of health insurance in our country, and lots of people are sharing lots of stories about the essential care that their insurance companies are not paying for.
Right. People have been sharing tons of stories about foregoing care that they couldn't afford, that wasn't getting covered, going into terrible medical debt, or watching their loved ones suffer and die because they couldn't get treatment.
And then there have also been many memes about how attractive the suspect, Luigi Mangione, actually is.
Yes, that has definitely been an element of this too. Megan, have you seen the memes about how Popeyes or Waffle House wouldn't have turned him in or might have even assisted him?
I mean, honestly, the narc factor around McDonald's is unreal to me right now. This story also came closer to home for us here in Pittsburgh, too, because police say that after Mangione allegedly killed Thompson, he caught a bus to Philly, then came to Pittsburgh before backtracking to Altoona. At this point, we don't know when or where he was in Pittsburgh. And if authorities know that, then they haven't told any of us.
Yeah, in general, it's still not clear exactly why he was traveling all around Pennsylvania. Like, he did go to UPenn, so he does have Philly connections, but originally he's from Maryland. It is not like he's local to Altoona, but he certainly has thrust this tiny town into the spotlight this week.
Yeah, because a lot of people are talking about Mangione as this, folk hero of sorts. They are not pleased that a McDonald's employee called police. And so this town and this McDonald's have gotten a lot of negative attention. Like the McDonald's itself has gotten a bunch of negative Google reviews, including one that said, quote unquote, saw rats scurrying in the kitchen here, stay away.
Yeah, I saw Google was trying to take some of those reviews down, but people are persistent. I also noticed this really wild story that McDonald's locations in Altoona, Iowa, there are only 2 of them there because this is a pretty small place. They have also been receiving threats, and the police department there had to put up a Facebook post reminding people that the Altoona, Iowa Police Department is not the same thing as the police department in Altoona, PA. This Facebook post says, quote, "We enjoy reading the tags and comments intended for PA. Some of them are not so Iowa nice, but they go unread by the APDPA, just by us Midwesterners." So this story is reaching quite far.
My favorite thing about that comment is that they're low-key saying Pittsburgh is not the Midwest. Noted.
True. Okay. Altoona, Iowa, you've got the final word. We are not the Midwest.
Governor Josh Shapiro has also gotten involved in this, too. So after the arrest, he condemned what he called vigilante justice and said, quote, "In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint," end quote. I have seen this quote shared so many times next to a photo of him, of Shapiro, literally signing bombs. It was during a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And reminder here, Shapiro is the one who has to sign extradition warrants, which they will need to return Mangione to New York.
Right, because as we're recording this, he is still being held at a maximum security facility in Huntington County, which is about 2.5 hours outside of Pittsburgh. It's actually the oldest operating state prison in Pennsylvania. I learned that this week. A spokesperson for Shapiro told the Associated Press that he is prepared to sign and process that warrant as soon as he receives it. The governor of New York would have to send that request. So we are officially in circle back season, where anytime something comes up, you're like, let's circle back to that in the new year. I love this term. But our city planning commission is doing a big old let's circle back on zoning plans.
Yeah, a quick refresher. Back in September, Mayor Ed Gainey proposed a whole bunch of zoning reforms. The idea is to create more housing overall in the city and especially more affordable housing. But he has had some critics straight out of the gate.
Right. So when he made these proposals, he pointed to the study that came out in 2022. It was assessing the housing needs in our city, and it identified some big issues, including the fact that low-income renters are leaving Pittsburgh. There isn't enough housing for low-income renters. The study found that we need more than 8,000 more affordable housing units specifically for low-income renters. And then we are also losing Black residents, both renters and homeowners, both middle-income and low-income folks. And that's actually like the only racial or ethnic group where there was this decline in the number of households in Pittsburgh since 2015. Obviously, that is not good. And so one of the things Gainey's pinpointed is he said there are some outdated zoning rules that make it harder to build affordable housing. And he wants to update those rules and remove those barriers as a way of addressing all of this.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been talking on this show all year about some of the challenges that have come up around zoning rules in reference to the Irish Center, which our new member mentioned, but also, the development that was planned where the Shop and Save is up there in Bloomfield. Mm-hmm. Council has been really clear. We understand that our zoning rules are not serving people the way they need to. And we even talked to Mayor Gainey about it personally back in October here on this show. And I think a lot of people have, shown some support for portions of his plan. Like removing minimum parking requirements for new buildings, updating residential lot sizes. So that would make it a lot easier for folks to build on like really small pieces of land or lots. And then the idea of like granny flats. So that's the accessory dwelling units. And they would be allowed in some spaces. I think they're more common on the West Coast.
Yeah. I mean, they're growing in popularity. So this is like building an apartment over your garage or building a little cottage or casita in the backyard. And it's somewhere that your family member could live, like your granny, hence the name granny flat. But also you could rent it out to somebody who doesn't need a ton of space and is looking for somewhere affordable to live.
Yeah, but I think the two pieces that have been maybe more contentious are inclusionary zoning and then also allowing for taller and more dense housing near some transit hubs here in the city. Just for clarity, I will take the inclusionary zoning piece. Mallory, you can explain the dense housing here in a second. So inclusionary zoning, some folks shorten it to IZ. You hear council say that sometimes. It would require developers set aside space in new buildings for low-income residents. So in Pittsburgh's proposal, any developer building, anything with 20 units or more would be required to set aside at least 10% for people making less than half of the area's median income. In Pittsburgh, that would be about $17 an hour, which is more than our minimum wage. The initial pushback that I've seen is that we're not subsidizing it in the way people think we should, which would mean that maybe developers would have to take a loss if they were to build, like they just have to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. But that's not actually true. So we are subsidizing through the Housing Authority and their voucher program. So the voucher program pays the difference between the market price and the affordable housing price. So building management gets their rent, and then low-income residents can afford to be there. It's actually a really cool program.
Gotcha. So through these vouchers, developers would end up making back whatever they might lose by having some units that don't go for market rate.
Yeah. And then there's a tax abatement portion, too, that we won't get into. It's a little in the weeds. But yeah, there are incentives for developers.
And so right now, there are 4 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh that have this inclusionary zoning rule in place. So Lawrenceville, Bloomfield, Polish Hill, and then part of Oakland. Obviously, there is a lot of student housing in Oakland, and this rule does not apply to dorms. So just a little clarification there. But now Gainey wants to expand inclusionary zoning to every neighborhood in the city.
Yeah, and Dave Bringen, he's the executive director over at Lawrenceville United. He calls the program that's been operating in Lawrenceville for the last 5 years a huge success. So in those last 5 years, they've had 6 big development projects get through all of their approvals, which we know on this show, getting all the way through all your zoning approvals to build something new is in itself quite the feat.
Yep.
They've had 6 manage to do it. That represents over 1,000 total units, including 116 affordable ones. And then they have have commitments right now for 76 more. Now, obviously, 200 units in the whole neighborhood is not even close to enough, but Brigham says it's a great start, and it's because of this inclusionary zoning policy. He also points out that he thinks there's been a lot of wrong reporting that suggests this inclusionary zoning has slowed down development in his neighborhood there in Lawrenceville. He crunched the numbers for me, and he said for the 5 years before these policies versus these 5 years since, that there's actually been a 58% increase in the number of units created. So it's like really helped the neighborhood overall.
Yeah, we talked to Dave a couple years ago about all of this, and I remember him really stressing like inclusionary zoning, it is just a tool in the toolbox. That alone is not going to solve the housing crisis in our entire city, but that it's a really critical tool.
Yeah, and he's also really excited about the parking requirements going away too. Like he said, like all of these pieces kind of work together to make something more possible for the city at large.
So Gainey has this proposal for citywide inclusionary zoning where neighborhoods would be required to implement this. But a city council member, Bob Charland, who represents the South Side, has actually proposed a rival bill that would leave it up to residents of each neighborhood to decide whether they want inclusionary zoning, among a few other things like expanding the definition of affordable.
Yeah, but I mean, I have so many questions about how you would accomplish that. Like, what is a neighborhood? You know, like how do you get the residents together to decide whether they want it or they don't? Like,
yeah, and I don't think that's really spelled out in this bill at all.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here for sure.
Yes, there's a lot going on here. Maybe we'll do a whole episode about this in the future. But Gainey's proposals for all these zoning changes, the City Planning Commission has to vote on them. And like I said at the very start of this conversation, they have decided to circle back on this next year. And that is because of this other piece of the plan, Megan, that you mentioned, to build denser housing near some of the city's transit hubs. The City Planning Commission was supposed to vote on this on Tuesday night, but officials weren't actually able to present the whole plan because there was so much public comment just on that one piece, mostly from residents of Polish Hill and Sheridan Crafton Heights. Those are two of the locations where the city wants to change zoning to build this dense housing. They want to build it around Heron Station, South Hills Junction, and Sheridan Station. Here are a couple of clips from that meeting.
Once construction begins, the water will only be diverted to the current houses, add flooding and sinkholes on top of the landslides. The infrastructure in our neighborhood is dismal. The water lines on Beth Oven and Harding have been worked on countless times in the past couple years. Water main breaks, gas leaks, power outages are common. Increasing the population in the area will put even more of a strain on our system.
Bigelow Boulevard is a highway. People drive very fast on that road. The sidewalk there is not a sidewalk. It's crumbling. All the city steps that go up to there, the city steps that go down to the Heron Station are broke and busted. We need to fix the infrastructure in our neighborhood where we even propose something on this large of a scale.
There was a lot more public comment. This was a very long meeting. Like I said, so long that officials couldn't even get to the discussion about inclusionary zoning. So they said, based on all this feedback, they thought maybe this proposal around transit hubs needs to be reworked. And they're tabling a vote on this until the new year. So we'll be talking about this again in 2025.
Okay, we've got just a few more things to round out your week. The U.S. steel sale to Nippon Steel is slowly proceeding. It's been going on all year long. And President Joe Biden looks poised, as we're recording this, to officially block it. The sale, that is, President-elect Donald Trump says he's going to do the same if it takes into January. But a coalition of locals, including a bunch of U.S. steel workers, say they want the sale to go through. There have been so many commercials, especially during Steelers games lately. And they're now calling on Governor Josh Shapiro to intervene and protect local jobs. We'll keep you posted as we know more.
And then the city budget. Zoning changes are tabled to the new year, but City Council did preliminarily approve Mayor Ed Gainey's proposed budget for 2025. So council members have shared concerns that they think this isn't setting aside enough money for things like police overtime.
Because it's not.
Yeah, and there are concerns that, our city's reserve fund, it's projected to drop, and it's not clear how that's going to get addressed. There are some really big concerns, but council did not really tackle those larger issues at their meeting this week. They made relatively minor changes to the budget before they took this initial vote. So some of these changes include lowering the salary of our acting police chief. Remember, we're searching for a new permanent chief after Larry Scarato stepped down so that he could referee college basketball games. It included raising the salary for the EMS chief. And then it also includes phasing out our mounted police unit, so the unit where police ride horses.
Which they just restored like a few years ago. We'll definitely be talking more about the budget in 2025. This whole process to me reads a lot like the county's budget process did in prior years. We have a shortfall. We see it coming, but instead of addressing it head on, we're planning to spend less than we absolutely know we will. It's frustrating to see it play out like this, but the budget is required to be passed by December 31st. So they have to move now to be able to move again next week.
And we just saw what happens when this gets kicked down the can. The county just passed a budget that included the first property tax increase in more than a decade because budgets kept getting passed that were not addressing these shortfalls. No one wanted to take responsibility. And so now here we are.
Yeah. And actually, by the by, we are also following news right now that the district attorney, Steven Zappala, has filed suit against the county over that budget because we don't have enough money to cover the pension fund, which has been, kind of a low key part of this entire conversation. So that's in addition to the new tax increase. It's been a problem for years, but now it's falling on our current county executive to deal with all of it.
Okay, we're going to move away from city governance now with a more lighthearted update. Our local Audubon Society chapter is kicking off its winter bird count. So this is the 125th year they're doing this. It is the world's longest running citizen science project where you count birds and the data is used to measure changes in the environment and in bird populations. It is so cool that citizen scientists have been working on something for 125 years. I love that.
Yeah, and that it's just such a big project too. Like people all over the nation work on this. It's really cool.
Yeah. So if you want to get involved, you can participate from your backyard or you can pair up with an experienced bird watcher in a few local parks here. We have the dates and classes you can take in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in this.
Yeah. Another item that may have gotten lost in your post-holiday news shuffle, it definitely did for me. But one of the city's main places to send folks for healthcare, especially new parents, had a really big loss right after Thanksgiving. So this is the Matilda Tice Health Center on Center Avenue there in the Hill District. The clinic does a whole bunch of things: cardiology, pharmacy, psychiatry, nutrition, social work. Like they are a true social safety net organization. They're also on a bus line, which is vital. And sometimes they also help fill in the gaps for new parents or people who just have not had the greatest experience with doctors before. Like they're a safe entry point in that way.
Yeah, this is all just really critical work.
So anyway, there was work happening on their roof and the ceiling collapsed. There was a ton of water damage. It destroyed all of the toys that they had been saving and buying and had people bringing in for children and new parents ahead of the holidays. So now they are collecting again, toys, books, coats, hats, gloves, diapers, wipes, formula. They were nice enough to share their Amazon and Target wish lists with us. So if you are feeling extra jolly this season or you have a couple extra dollars to spare, maybe consider donating to these folks. We'll put their lists in our show notes, or you can drop off items there in person. The person coordinating all of this says that they are back in the building now, but it is a big mess while they wait for repairs.
Yeah, and things like diapers and formula, these are so essential. It's really important for families to have access to this. So truly, if you can afford to be a little extra generous this holiday season, this is a really worthy cause.
Yeah.
One final newsy update. The airport is still on track to be mostly done with their big renovation next year. And a local pizza institution will be joining their ranks. Minio's is going to open in the airport. As someone whose family was on the Minio's side of the Minio's ILO's debate, this is great news.
And I feel like they're class acts too, because they delivered pizza to people working on the tarmac as part of their big announcement. I just love a moment for the workers,
Yes, great call on Minio's part. I guess at the airport, you will be able to get personal pizzas, which sounds great for travel. But there's also going to be sit-down service, and you can get Minio's own beer there. Minio's What's a Matter You? I didn't realize they had this beer. But yeah, so grab a beer, grab a slice, or grab a personal pizza, and enjoy your travels.
And the last thing before we go, if you've been listening to the show this week, you have heard about this, but we are holding a live event next Friday, December 20th at our studio downtown. So our contributor, our friend, Kevin Gavin, he's going to be recording his 48th annual all request holiday music show, and I get to co-host.
This is a guaranteed great time. You'll get to meet our team. So that's Megan, Sophia, Francesca, and me. You can request a song live on air. There will be cookies. Sophia is baking some. That's the biggest draw.
Honestly.
You can pop in anytime between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. We are on the 10th floor of the Benedum Trees building downtown. It's on 4th Avenue. I know that's during work hours for a lot of people. So if you can't make it in person, but you have a job where you can listen to the radio while you work, you can hear the show live on WZUM AM 1150 or 101.1 FM. You can also stream it at WZUM.org, and you can call into us with the request. But if you are able to make it downtown, we would really love to see you. So we hope you come.
Yeah, and kids and parents and significant others and friends, frenemies are all welcome.
Maybe not frenemies.
I mean, you do you. You can also make your song requests and dedications now. So send them to us via email at pittsburgh@citycast.fm.
Okay, so that is it. That's truly it for today's show and also for our end of year membership campaign. Don't forget, today is your very last chance to get an exclusive CityCast Pittsburgh tote bag if you become a member. So head to membership.citycast.fm to join us. And also, if there's someone in your life who loves this show and you're trying to figure out a great holiday gift to give them the gift of membership, because you are also gifting them the gift of ad-free podcast listening.
Yes, for sure. And thank you again to everyone who's already become a member. We really appreciate your support. Truly, we could not do any of this without you. That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe and Elizabeth Kama produced the show this week. Francesca DeBecco wrote our newsletter with help from Francisco Kilgore. I'm your host, Megan Harris. We will be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone.
And we just saw what happens when this gets kicked down the count. Oh my God, why is this so hard for me? Okay.